Bruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Chof Aleph Amud Beis, 6 lines from the bottom. After the Mishnah had taught us in regards to Nero Shel Shabbos that a person cannot use poor quality oils and wicks because the Chachamim were worried that maybe a person will tilt the Ner and be over an Isser, the arise of Havara, kindling a flame on Shabbos. The Gemara then asks, what about regards to Nero Shel Chanukah? The Gemara brings 3 different opinions, and the prevailing opinion is Bein Bechol, Bein B'Shabbos. Whether during the week or on Shabbos, a person can, yes, use poor quality wicks and oils for their Ner Chanukah. The Gemara brings 2 reasons. One, because Kavsa Ein Zokuk Lo. Once a person lights the Ner Chanukah and it goes out, he does not have to. He is not required to then rekindle the Ner Chanukah. Also, the Gemara explains, also lishtamish la'ora. In regards to Ner Chanukah, a person is not allowed to use the or of the Ner Chanukah. The Ner Chanukah is designated for Pirsumei Nisa, and a person cannot use his personal usage for that Ner Chanukah, and therefore he's not apt to then tilt the Ner, and thereby be over an Isser of Havara on Shabbos, and therefore Bein Bechol, Bein B'Shabbos, a person can use Shmonim and Psilois Gruim. The Gemara then explained the specific places where a person needs to light his Ner Chanukah to fulfill his mitzvah. Our Gemara then goes on to detail the specific places where indeed a person must light. Says the Gemara, bringing a Mishnah in Bava Kama. Tnan Hasam. The Mishnah says over there, Getz hayoytze mitachas hapatish v'yotza v'hizik chayav. A person, a blacksmith, who has sparks that fly out from his blacksmith store into the Rishus Harabim, and they damage somebody, he's going to be obligated for the damage. Gamal sheton pishton v'hu oiver b'Rishus Harabim. If a person is riding a camel in the Rishus Harabim and he's carrying flax, v'nichnasa pishtono l'toich hachanut v'dolka b'nero shel chenvoni v'hidlik es habira bala gamal chayev. If the pishtan, the flax, they enter the store where the blacksmith is, and then they become aflamed, causing a fire, then the bala gamal is going to be chayev for the damage. Hiniach chenvoni es nero mibachutz. If the chenvoni, the storekeeper, puts his fire outside of the store, chenvoni chayev, then chenvoni is going to be obligated for the damages. Rabbi Yehuda Oimer ben ner Chanukah potter. If that ner that he's putting outside of his store is going to be ner Chanukah, he will be potter. Omer Ravina mishum derabo zois oimeres. We can learn halacha from this Mishnah that Rabbi Yehuda said ben ner Chanukah potter. Mitzvah lahanicha betoich asora. That it's a mitzvah to place the ner Chanukah within 10 tfachim from the ground. And he proves it. Because if indeed a person put his ner Chanukah higher than asara tfachim, then lei molei. Let's say to him, why didn't you place your ner Chanukah higher than the one who is driving, who was on top of the camel, and thereby you wouldn't have damaged him? The fact that we cannot make that taina, it must be that he's required to then light the ner Chanukah within asara tfachim. V'dilma, says the Gemara, perhaps if he recalls the store under too much hassle, he will then not end up doing the mitzvah of ner Chanukah by trying to then require him to elevate his ner Chanukah too high. Nonetheless, the Rishonim and the Poskim do say that a person lichatchila should light his ner Chanukah within asara tfachim from the ground. It should be higher than 3 tfachim, because within 3 tfachim is lavud. It's considered to be as if you're lighting on the ground, and therefore it would not be nicker, that it's for the purpose of ner Chanukah. And it also should not be higher than asara tfachim, again, because when a person lights a ner higher than asar tfachim, then it could be he's using that for his own personal use. But within asar tfachim, then it's clear that it's not for his personal use, but rather for ner Chanukah. Says the Gemara, Rav Kahana Dorash Rav Nosen bar Yomi Mishmei de Rabbi Tanchum. Ner shel Chanukah sheinicha lamala chof amma psula. If a person lights his ner Chanukah higher than esrim amma, that means even the flame is going to be higher than esrim amma, then it's possible. He does not fulfill his obligation of ner Chanukah, because lo shilta be'ena, a person's eyes are not able to then easily look up and see the ner Chanukah. Kisukkah or kimavui, just like when it comes to a sukkah, if the sukkah, the schach is higher than esrim amma, then again that sukkah is going to be possible because lo shilta be'ena, a person cannot easily then see the schach. And similarly when it comes to a mavui that has a pros beam, a kara at the end, so that will allow a person to then walk and carry within that mavui. So if a person doesn't have the heker of the crossbeam, in order to then indicate that he is in a mavui, then he might then be susceptible then going into the Rishus Harabim with that object, and that would be a problem. So up until Esrim Amma, the crossbeam then is a good indicator, allowing him to then carry in the mavui. But above Esrim Amma, then we say a person cannot then easily see, is not ascertainable, and he cannot easily discern the crossbeam. Therefore, it's going to be then possible, it's going to be also to then carry in the mavui. So too over here, in our case, in regards to ner Chanukah, above esrim amma is going to be possible. Now the Gemara brings another drasha in his name. V'amar Rav Chahana Dorash Rav Nosen bar Yomi Mishmei de Rav Tanchu. My dichsiv, what's written in the pasuk, what's meant when it says in regard to where the brothers threw Yosef into the bore, v'habor rek ein bo mayim, and the bore, the pit, was empty, it didn't have any water. Mimashma shene'emar v'habor rek ein yodeh she'ein bo mayim. From the fact that the pasuk says that the pit was empty, obviously it doesn't have any water. Why does it add ein bo mayim? Elo ma tamu lomar ein bo mayim. Mayim ein boy, to make the diuk that it doesn't have any water. Avon nechashim ve'akrabim yesh boy, but snakes and scorpions it did have inside of it. Now the Gemara brings regarding ner Chanukah where to place the ner Chanukah. Omar Rabba ner Chanukah mitzvah lahanicha b'tefach hasmucha lepesach. Rabba says that it's a mitzvah to place the ner Chanukah within a tefach of the doorway. Because if it's further than that, it won't be nik, it won't be clear that it's coming from this balabayis, that it's a ner Chanukah related to this person's home. Vehecha monachle, ask the Gemara, what does a person place that ner Chanukah? Says the Gemara, Rav Achabre de Rava Omar miyamin. He puts it on the right side of the doorway. Since the right side is always considered to be more chashuv, and in regards to mezuzah, we put the mezuzah on the right side. There's also an additional drush in regards to the mezuzah. Uchsavtem al mezuzois beisecha uvisharecha beisecha. The Gemara darshans bi'asecha, and therefore a person standing by the door, when he's bi'asecha, when he is then going to then walk, he always goes from the right first, and as he walks, the right foot goes forward first. Therefore, the mezuzah then is encountered first on the right side. So too the menorah should be placed on the right side. Rav Shmuel Medifti argues and he says, Omar mismol. He says on the left side. Says the Gemara v'hilchasa mismol, kedei shedei ner Chanukah mismol or mezuzah miyamin. The halacha is indeed like Rav Shmuel Medifti, that you put the ner Chanukah on the left side, so that the left side has a ner Chanukah and the right side has the mezuzah, and the person then is mesubin. He's surrounded by mitzvahs. Says the Gemara in regards to then permissibility of using the ner Chanukah. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Asi, Asur lahartzois maos keneged ner Chanukah. A person is prohibited from then counting his money next to ner Chanukah. And what is the chiddush? Because earlier on the top of Chaf Aleph Amud Beis we said that it's asur lishtamish la'ara. So many Rishonim learned that over here Rav Yehuda is saying to Rav Asi that the chiddush is that even when it comes to a tashmish kal, an easy type of tashmish, even that is also, even that is prohibited next to the Ner Chanukah. Ki amrisa kamei de Shmuel, when this halach was taught before Shmuel, Omar li, his response to me was, V'chi ner kedusha yesh bo? Does ner have kedusha? Maskif lo Rav Yosef, V'chi dam kedusha yesh bo? Rav Yosef asked, does dam have kedusha in regards to kisui hadam? There's a halacha in regards to then a person who was shechting either an oif or a chaya, he has a ktzivoy, a command to cover up the dam. So does that dam have kedusha? And he explains as follows: the Tanya, for it says in the Brisa, v'shofach v'chisa. The Torah says, and he shall pour the blood, and he regards to the shechting, and then he shall cover the blood. Explains the Brisa, b'mesh shofach yichase. In the same manner that he pours the blood, that he shechts with, which is with his hand, that's how he shall also then cover the blood. Shelo yichasena beregel. That he should not cover the blood with the regel, shelo yihu mitzvahs bezuyos alov, so that he shouldn't then have the mitzvahs bezuyos on him. Hachanami shelo yeh mitzvahs bezuyos alov. So too, when it comes to the Ner Chanukah, a person should not read, or in this case, you should not even count his money next to the Ner Chanukah, because it shouldn't have mitzvahs bezuyos alov. It shouldn't be a bizui to the mitzvah, a degradation to the mitzvah. Boy, me name Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Mahu. They asked Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi the following: Lihistapek minoi sukkah kol shiva. Can a person use the noi sukkah during the 7 days of Sukkot? Let's say a person has glass jars that he fills them up with oil for his noi sukkah, and he hangs glass jars throughout his sukkah. Comes Chol Hamoed, and he wants to then use some of that oil for his bread. Can he take down one of those glass jars and then dip his challah, his bread, into the oil? Says the Gemara, Omar lei, Hare Amru Asur lahartzos mos keneged Ner Chanukah. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi said that in regards to Ner Chanukah, it's also to count one's money next to the Ner Chanukah. So therefore, he's implying that would be Asur. Just like you cannot count your money next to Ner Chanukah, so too you cannot use your Noi Sukkah during the week of Sukkot. Rav Yosef, Morei de Avram, he says, Master of Avram, Toli Tanya, B'dloi Tanya, are you going to then make dependent a teaching on something that's not a teaching? Meaning Sukkah, Tanya, Chanukah lo Tanya. In Sukkah is an explicit brisa taught by the Tanoim. And yet, when it comes to Ner Chanukah, it was just an Amor that taught it. So why didn't you then give the answer based on the brisa as follows? The Tanya, it says, Sichecha ki hilchasa. If a person makes his Sukkah with the proper schach ki halacha, and then in regards to the Noi Sukkah, he then beautifies his Sukkah. V'itra bekromim, by making colored tapestry. Ubesadin hamitzuyarim, and he has embroidered linens. V'tala ba'egoizim afarsikim shkedim v'imonim, and he also hangs for his Noi Sukkah nuts and peaches, almonds and pomegranates. Uparchile anovim v'itaros shel shibolim, and he also hangs clusters of grapes, and he hangs crowns or wreaths of grains. Yenos shmonim v'slotois, he hangs jars or jugs that are of clear glass that have wine and oil and fine flour for his Noi Sukkah. The Brisa goes on to say, also lihistapik men ad motzei yom tov ha'acharon shel chag. One cannot use all of this Noi Sukkah during the week-long festivity of Sukkot until after Sukkot. V'im hisna aleim, however, if he did make a t'nai, hakol lefi t'no, if he made a t'nai on Erev Sukkot ben hashmashos, then he then can use it. But if he did not make the t'nai, it would be asur. So you see from here that indeed it would be asur then to also use then the Noi Sukkah we see from before in the Brisa, it's also to use noise sukkah during the week long of Sukkos. However, Rav Yosef says, but the prototype, the Av, for all of these halachos, not using noise sukkah during the week of Sukkos, and not reading or counting one's money next to the Ner Chanukah, all comes from the prototype of Kisui Adam, that because a person then shechted with his hand, he cannot then cover up the dam with his foot. It could be a bizui mitzvah. So too in these cases, it would be a bizui mitzvah. The Gemara now brings three machloikesim between Rav and Shmuel. Itmar, Rav amar ein malikin mener lener, u'Shmuel amar malikin. Rav says you cannot light from one ner Chanukah to another ner Chanukah, and Shmuel says you can. The Gemara will explain. Rav Omar ein matirin tzitzis mi beged lebeged, u'Shmuel Amar matirin mi beged lebeged. Rav says you cannot take out the tzitzis, the strings, from one talis and put it into a newer talis if the old talis is still in use, whereas Shmuel says you can. Rav Omar ein halacha k'Rebbe Shimon begreiro, u'Shmuel Amar halacha k'Rebbe Shimon begreiro. Rav says that the halacha is not like Rebbe Shimon in regards to greiro, and Shmuel says the halacha is like Rebbe Shimon begreira, which we'll explain shortly. Omar Abaye kol mili damar avi kirav lebar mehani tlas the avi kishmuel. Abaye says to his Rebbe, whenever you teach whenever you teach a machlokes in Rav and Shmuel, the halacha is always like Rav. With the exception of these three cases, the halacha is like Shmuel. Maliki miner lener. You can light from one ner to another ner in regards to Chanukah. Umatirim mi beged lebeged. You can then take out the tzitzis from one beged and put into another talis that is newer. V'halacha Rebbe Shimon begreiro, and the halacha is like Rebbe Shimon in regards to greiro. D'Tanya, Rebbe Shimon oimer gorer adam mita kisei v'safsal. A person can drag a bed, a chair, or a bench. Let's say a person has a bench on the other side of the field, so he then drags the bench across the field, and thereby it makes a furrow in the field. So that's a malacha, a tolda of meleches choresh, charisha. It's a plowing. So because Shmuel says it's a malacha she'eno miskavein, a davar she'eno miskavein is mutter. And therefore Shmuel says the halacha is indeed like Shmuel by greira.